11. Black celebrities who are richest but rotting in prison. Imagine reaching the top of the music industry. Millions of fans, hit records, money and influence only to watch freedom disappear behind prison walls. From Tory Lanez and R. Kelly to Suge Knight. C. Murder and Tay-K, these once famous names became connected to criminal cases that dramatically changed their lives and careers. Some are serving lengthy sentences, while others remain behind bars, awaiting further legal proceedings. But how did artists surrounded by fame and opportunity end up here, and what really happened beyond the sensational headlines today? Golden Black Legends separates documented facts from rumors. Before we begin, subscribe, hit the like button, and tell us in the comments which story shocked you the most. Tory Lanez. Tory Lanez once seemed unstoppable. Born Daystar Shemuel Shua Peterson in 1992, the Canadian rapper and R&B singer built an international following through mixtapes before breaking into the mainstream with Say It, which became a major Billboard hit. Albums, including I Told You and his Chicks-tape series, strengthened his reputation as a versatile performer who could move between melodic R&B and rap. But one night in Los Angeles permanently changed the direction of his life. In July 2020, following a gathering in the Hollywood Hills, Megan Thee Stallion was wounded by gunfire in her feet. Lanez denied shooting her, and the case became the subject of enormous public debate. In December 2022, however, a Los Angeles jury convicted him on 3 felony counts: assault with a semi-automatic firearm, carrying a loaded and unregistered firearm in a vehicle, and discharging a firearm with gross negligence. In August 2023, Lanez was sentenced to 10 years in prison. His conviction transformed a thriving career into years behind bars. Although he has continued attempting to reach listeners through music released during his incarceration, touring and ordinary studio life have been replaced by the restrictions of imprisonment. Then came another frightening chapter. In May 2025, Lanez was attacked by another inmate at a California prison and suffered multiple stab wounds. His representatives said he was hospitalized after the attack and survived despite serious injuries. The incident demonstrated just how dramatically his circumstances had changed from sold-out performances and celebrity life. As of 2026, Lanez remains incarcerated while continuing legal efforts surrounding his conviction. His case is not simply a story about fame disappearing overnight. It is a reminder that one violent episode can carry consequences lasting far beyond headlines. At 34, Tory Lanez still has years of life ahead of him, but whether his music career can ever resemble what it once was remains an unanswered question. C. Murder. C. Murder's story is one of the most controversial falls in Southern hip-hop. A successful rapper whose career was effectively frozen by a murder conviction he continues to challenge. Born Corey Miller in Louisiana in 1971, he rose through his brother Master P's No Limit Records empire during the late 1990s. His debut album, Life or Death, reached the upper ranks of the Billboard 200, establishing him as a significant voice in New Orleans rap. Everything changed after a January 2002 confrontation at the Platinum Club in Harvey, Louisiana. 16-year-old Steve Thomas was fatally shot during the disturbance, and Miller was accused of killing him. The transcript correctly identifies the nightclub shooting as the event that ultimately led to his life sentence. Miller was initially convicted in 2003, but that conviction was later overturned. At a second trial in 2009, a jury again found him guilty of second-degree murder, and he received a mandatory sentence of life imprisonment without parole. Yet controversy never disappeared. Miller has consistently maintained his innocence. Years later, 2 key witnesses publicly recanted their testimony, creating renewed debate about the conviction. Those recantations did not automatically overturn the verdict, however, and it would be inaccurate to present Miller as legally exonerated. His conviction has remained in place despite continued efforts to challenge it. From prison, C. Murder has continued writing and releasing music, while supporters have advocated for another examination of his case. His story therefore differs from cases where guilt is no longer seriously disputed publicly. At 55 in 2026, Corey Miller remains defined by two competing realities. The Louisiana court system convicted him of murder, while he and his supporters continue insisting that conviction was unjust. Whether that judgment will ever change remains uncertain. Until then, the career that once flourished inside one of hip-hop's biggest empires remains overshadowed by a life sentence. Sean Diddy Combs. Sean Diddy Combs spent decades building one of the most powerful brands in black entertainment before criminal proceedings produced a stunning reversal of fortune. Born in Harlem in 1969, Combs transformed Bad Boy Records into a dominant force behind artists including the notorious B.I.G., Faith Evans, and 112, while establishing himself as a recording artist, producer, entrepreneur, and media personality. His public standing deteriorated dramatically beginning in 2023 as multiple civil lawsuits accused him of sexual abuse and other misconduct. Combs denied many allegations. In 2024, federal authorities arrested him after an indictment that included racketeering, conspiracy, sex trafficking, and transportation to engage in prostitution. Accuracy is especially important because the eventual verdict was mixed. In July 2025, a federal jury acquitted Combs of racketeering, conspiracy, and both sex trafficking charges. He was, however, convicted on 2 federal counts of transportation to engage in prostitution. Those distinctions matter. Allegations and acquitted charges should never be rewritten as crimes for which he was convicted. In October 2025, Judge Arun Subramanian sentenced Combs to 50 months in federal prison along with a $500,000 fine and supervised release. The result represented an extraordinary reversal for someone whose career had once included Grammy Awards, multi-million-dollar businesses, luxury properties, and enormous influence across music and popular culture. By 2026, Combs was serving his federal sentence while his attorneys continued challenging aspects of the case. His imprisonment has also unfolded alongside continuing civil litigation, which remains legally separate from his criminal convictions. At 56, Diddy's story is still developing. His accomplishments helped shape an era of hip-hop, but his reputation has been profoundly altered by criminal conviction and numerous allegations. His case demonstrates why sensationalism is unnecessary. The verified record is already dramatic enough, and separating convictions, acquittals, and unresolved allegations is essential when telling it. Tay-K became famous under circumstances almost impossible to separate from the criminal case surrounding him. Born Tamor Trayvon McIntyre in 2000, the Texas rapper was still a teenager when the race exploded online in 2017. Its success transformed him into a viral hip-hop phenomenon, but by then McIntyre was literally a fugitive. The case began with a 2016 home invasion in Mansfield, Texas. Prosecutors said McIntyre and several others participated in a robbery that resulted in the fatal shooting of 21-year-old Ethan Walker. McIntyre was placed under house arrest while awaiting proceedings but removed his ankle monitor and fled. During that period, he recorded the race. The song's imagery and lyrics about avoiding capture generated enormous attention as authorities searched for him. McIntyre was eventually arrested in New Jersey in June 2017. The race continued climbing the Billboard Hot 100 while its teenage creator sat behind bars. In 2010, a Texas jury found McIntyre guilty of murder for his participation in the robbery that killed Walker. Importantly, prosecutors did not need to establish that McIntyre personally fired the fatal shot. His criminal responsibility arose from his involvement in the underlying felony. He received a 55-year prison sentence. The transcript accurately identifies this conviction and sentence, although several claims about his specific prison conditions are presented without evidence. His legal story later became even more serious. McIntyre faced a separate murder prosecution stemming from the killing of Mark Anthony Saldivar, while he was a fugitive in 2017, adding another major chapter to his already extraordinary criminal history. At only 26 in 2026, Take has spent much of his adult life incarcerated. His rise remains one of rap's darkest paradoxes. The circumstances that helped make the race famous were closely connected to the criminal proceedings that ultimately took away his freedom. R. Kelly. R. Kelly's fall represents one of the most dramatic reversals in modern R&B history. Born Robert Sylvester Kelly in Chicago in 1967, he became a dominant songwriter, producer, and performer during the 1990s and 2000s. Records such as Bump and Grind, Ignition Remix, and the Grammy-winning I Believe I Can Fly made him an international superstar. Yet allegations involving girls and young women followed him for years before federal prosecutions ultimately transformed those accusations into major criminal convictions. In 2021, a federal jury in Brooklyn convicted Kelly of racketeering and violations of the Mann Act after prosecutors presented evidence describing a long-running system used to recruit and sexually exploit women and girls. In June 2022, he received a 30-year federal prison sentence. The transcript correctly identifies this as the central conviction behind his imprisonment. A separate federal prosecution in Chicago produced additional convictions involving child sexual abuse material and enticement. In 2023, Kelly received a 20-year sentence in that case, with all but 1 year ordered to run concurrently with his New York sentence. His legal appeals have continued, but his incarceration remains a reality. The contrast is extraordinary. Kelly once sold tens of millions of records worldwide and occupied a commanding position in R&B. Today, discussions of that musical legacy are inseparable from his convictions and the experiences described by victims. At 59 in 2026, Kelly remains in federal custody. His story demonstrates why fame, wealth, and artistic achievement cannot place anyone beyond accountability. For longtime R&B listeners, the uncomfortable question remains: what happens to beloved music when the person behind it is convicted of crimes that permanently change how audiences hear those songs? Suge Knight. Suge Knight never needed to stand behind a microphone to become one of hip-hop's most recognizable figures. Born Marion Hugh Knight Jr. in Compton in 1965, the former football player co-founded Death Row Records and helped construct one of the most influential and controversial music empires of the 1990s. Death Row became home to artists including Dr. Dre, Snoop Dogg, and Tupac Shakur. Albums such as The Chronic Doggy Style and All Eyes on Me turned the label into a cultural powerhouse. Knight projected an intimidating public image, while legal disputes and accusations of violence repeatedly followed him. His defining criminal case came decades later. On January 29, 2015, Knight became involved in a confrontation in Compton connected to the production environment surrounding Straight Outta Compton. Knight drove his Ford pickup into Terry Carter and Cleabone Sloan. Carter, 55, was killed while Sloan survived with injuries. The incident was captured on surveillance footage. Knight initially faced murder and other charges. In September 2018, rather than proceeding to trial, he pleaded no contest to voluntary manslaughter. The court sentenced him to 28 years in prison. The transcript correctly identifies the fatal confrontation and resulting sentence, although its descriptions of Knight's prison health and personal suffering contain speculation that should not be treated as verified fact. The transformation was extraordinary. The executive who once controlled one of rap's most powerful labels was now facing decades behind bars. At 61 in 2026, Knight remains incarcerated. His death row legacy continues to occupy an important chapter in hip-hop history, but his conviction permanently changed the final act of his public story. Suge Knight once helped build an empire around some of rap's greatest stars. In the end, however, power and reputation could not protect him from the consequences of a fatal confrontation. Casanova 2X. Casanova built his reputation on gritty New York street rap, but the image that fueled his music eventually collided with a federal prosecution, carrying consequences far beyond the recording studio. Born Caswell Sr. in Brooklyn in 1986, he broke through with Don't Run and later signed with Roc Nation, collaborating with artists including Chris Brown, Fabulous, and Young Thug. For a performer who entered the industry relatively late, his rise was remarkably fast. In December 2020, federal prosecutors charged Casanova and other alleged members of the untouchable Gorilla Stone Nation Bloods in a sweeping racketeering case. He initially pleaded not guilty before pleading guilty in May 2022 to racketeering, conspiracy, and conspiracy to distribute more than 100 kilograms of marijuana. According to federal prosecutors, Casanova admitted participating in a July 2020 shooting in Florida that seriously injured a man, involvement in a 2018 New York robbery, and narcotics trafficking connected with the criminal enterprise. In June 2023, a federal judge sentenced him to 188 months, 15 years, and 8 months in prison, followed by 4 years of supervised release. He was also ordered to forfeit $50,000. The sentence represented a devastating interruption to a career that had finally reached national recognition. Instead of tours and new releases, much of Casanova's foreseeable future would unfold inside the federal prison system. Yet his story cannot accurately be reduced to the familiar cliché of a rapper imprisoned simply because of his lyrics or public persona. His sentence resulted from offenses to which he actually pleaded guilty. At 39 in 2026, Casanova still has a musical catalog and an audience waiting outside. But the contrast remains striking. After fighting his way into mainstream hip-hop, decisions connected to his life beyond music ultimately cost him more than 15 years of freedom. The Kid Creole. The Kid Creole belongs to a generation that helped build hip-hop before the genre became a billion-dollar global industry. Born Nathaniel Glover in the Bronx in 1960, he became a founding member of Grandmaster Flash and the Furious Five, one of the most historically important groups in rap. Alongside Grandmaster Flash Mel Scorpio and other members, Glover participated in hip-hop's transformation from neighborhood culture into recorded music. The group became associated with classics such as The Message, and in 2007 Grandmaster Flash and the Furious Five became the first hip-hop group inducted into the Rock and Roll Hall of Fame. Decades after those pioneering years, however, Glover's life changed catastrophically. On August 1, 2017, he encountered John Jolly, a homeless man on a Manhattan street. An argument followed and Glover stabbed Jolly twice with a steak knife. Jolly was transported to a hospital where he died. Glover's defense argued that he believed Jolly was making a sexual advance and that he acted because he felt threatened. Prosecutors argued that his response was intentional and unjustified. In April 2022, a Manhattan jury convicted Glover of first-degree manslaughter. He was subsequently sentenced to 16 years in prison. The tragedy created an extraordinary contrast with his earlier life. One of the men who helped introduce hip-hop to audiences around the world was now experiencing old age behind bars because of a fatal confrontation lasting only moments. His conviction does not erase his place in music history, but musical importance cannot erase John Jolly's death either. At 66, in 2026, The Kid Creole represents one of hip-hop's most sobering stories, a pioneering career spanning decades followed by a single violent encounter that radically altered the final chapters of his life. Big Lurch. Big Lurch never achieved the enormous mainstream success of several other artists on this list, but his criminal case became far more famous than his music. Born Antron, Singleton in Texas in 1976, the towering rapper developed his reputation within West Coast hip-hop, performing with Cosmic Slop Shop and collaborating with artists connected to the California rap scene. Then came April 2002. 21-year-old Tynisha Wysice was found murdered in Los Angeles. Singleton was arrested nearby, and prosecutors accused him of killing her while under the influence of PCP. the case became notorious because authorities alleged that portions of the victim's body had been mutilated and that human tissue was discovered in Singleton's stomach. The transcript repeats these disturbing details and connects the crime directly with PCP use. However, some of its additional claims about Singleton's fortune, solitary confinement, prison treatment, and inability to create music are not adequately supported by the transcript and should not be presented as established facts. In 2003, Singleton was convicted of first-degree murder and aggravated mayhem and sentenced to life imprisonment without the possibility of parole. Singleton has maintained that he did not kill Esais and has challenged his conviction. Supporters have raised questions concerning his intoxication evidence and circumstances surrounding the case. Those claims have not resulted in his exoneration, meaning accuracy requires acknowledging both realities. He maintains his innocence, but his murder conviction remains legally intact. At 49 in 2026. Big Lurch remains known less for the career he was building than for the horrific case that ended it. His story is therefore different from the classic tale of a superstar losing everything. He was still climbing when his freedom disappeared, and one night ensured that whatever musical future might have existed would never unfold normally. K-Flock. K-Flock emerged from the Bronx drill movement with remarkable speed, but before his career could fully develop, serious criminal cases changed everything. Born Kevin Perez in New York City in 2003, he attracted attention through aggressive drill records and collaborations before songs such as Being Honest helped turn him into one of the Bronx scene's most recognizable young performers. His legal problems became national news following a December 2021 shooting outside a Harlem barbershop. Oscar Hernandez was killed and Perez surrendered to authorities after police identified him as a suspect. K-Flock pleaded not guilty to the state murder charge and maintained that he had acted in self-defense. That distinction is essential. Allegations in that case should not simply be rewritten as a murder conviction. His federal case later produced a different outcome. Prosecutors accused Perez and others of participating in a Bronx street gang and charged him with racketeering-related crimes. In 2025, a federal jury acquitted him of racketeering conspiracy and attempted murder while convicting him on other serious counts, including firearm-related offenses and assault with a dangerous weapon connected to racketeering activity. This makes K-Flock's story particularly important to describe carefully. A sensational script could easily merge every accusation into one narrative and falsely imply he was convicted of everything prosecutors alleged. He was not. By 2026, his incarceration and federal sentencing consequences had placed what once looked like a rapidly accelerating music career in profound uncertainty. He was only 23 in age when many performers are just beginning to establish themselves. K-Flock's story remains unfinished. Unlike older figures, whose entire careers can be examined retrospectively, his artistic identity and legal history are still developing. What is already clear is how abruptly circumstances changed within only a few years. He went from a teenage Bronx rapper attracting millions of views to facing the consequences of serious federal convictions. Y.N. Melly. Y.N. Melly's story requires one crucial distinction from nearly everyone else on this list. He has not been convicted of the two murders for which he remains jailed. Any accurate account must preserve that fact. Born Jamel Morris, Demons in Florida in 1999, Melly gained enormous attention through emotionally charged melodic rap. Songs including Murder on My Mind accumulated hundreds of millions of streams, while collaborations and viral success suggested that a major career was beginning. Then in February 2019, Demons surrendered to authorities. Prosecutors accused him of killing two friends and fellow YNW members, Anthony Williams, YNW Sackchaser, and Christopher Thomas Jr., YNW Juvie, in October 2018. Authorities alleged that the killings were subsequently staged to resemble a drive-by shooting. These remain prosecution allegations, not established findings of guilt. Melly pleaded not guilty. His first murder trial began in 2023 and ended in a mistrial after jurors failed to reach a unanimous verdict. That outcome did not convict or acquit him. Instead, prosecutors prepared to try the case again. Years of delays followed. By mid-2026, Melly had spent more than 7 years in custody awaiting a final resolution. His attempts to obtain pretrial release were unsuccessful, and his double murder retrial was scheduled for January 2027. That makes his situation extraordinary. At 27, a substantial portion of Melly's adult life has passed inside a county jail without a murder conviction. His future remains completely unresolved. A new jury could eventually convict him, acquit him, or proceedings could take another unexpected turn. Until then, the fairest description is also the simplest. YNW Melly remains incarcerated, awaiting retrial, and is presumed innocent unless proven guilty. From chart-topping records and multi-million-dollar careers to courtrooms and years behind bars, these stories reveal how quickly fame can collide with devastating consequences. Tory Lanez, R. Kelly, Suge Knight, C. Murder, Tay-K, and the others on this list reached very different levels of success, yet each became connected to serious legal battles that changed the course of their lives. Some were convicted, while others like YNW Melly remain jailed, awaiting further proceedings and must still be presumed innocent. But here's the question. Should a criminal conviction permanently erase an artist's musical legacy, or can the art be judged separately from the person? Share your opinion respectfully in the comments. Like this video and subscribe to Golden Black Legends for more stories behind the legends and headlines.